Now, I don't know about you, but I think there's something really mysterious about snow leopards. Now, I'm fascinated with them, and most people, when I mention them, their eyes really light up. Now, these animals, they're so elusive in Central Asia, way up high where they live, the locals oftentimes never see them in their entire lives. And because of that, they're sometimes called the ghosts of the mountains. In today's episode, Dr. Koustubh Sharma joins me. He's the Conservation Science Director of Snow Leopard Trust. Now, it was established over 45 years ago in 1981, and since then, they have worked to preserve these majestic animals whose population is now considered vulnerable, with less than an estimated 8,000 still roaming the high mountains. Now, the Trust takes an integrative approach to protect them. They work with local farmers and herders to educate them in ways to stabilize their livelihood in a variety of programs, and by doing so, it has a residual effect of protecting the snow leopards. Help the people, you help the snow leopards. Now, we get into those programs and so much more. I found it enlightening and encouraging. But snow leopards, let's talk about them a bit. Here's a couple teasers. Did you know that their tail is almost as long as their body, and that their tail is used to help counterbalance them when they're climbing on those steep terrains? Plus, that tail, it's kind of like a scarf. They use it to wrap around themselves when they're really cold. Now, here's one more. The snow leopard is actually more closely related to tigers than all the other leopards. Wild, I know. This episode, it's going to help the mystery of these beautiful cats be a little less mysterious. And while the snow leopard doesn't roar, this episode is really the real meow.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange. Losses and gains, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the For Real podcast. Today, my guest, I'm going to have a hard time saying it, Koustubh, if I said it right, Sharma? Did I say it right?
Absolutely.
Wrong.
After all these years, I've realized that my name has so many nice pronunciations and each of them sound correct. So this is fine.
Okay.
My mother would call me, or my family would call me Koustubh, but that's all right.
Okay, I'm going to say Koustubh just so I say it right. And for everybody that's listening, can you tell them where you are right now? Because a lot of my listeners are here in the U.S., but they're all over the world. But you're pretty far away from me.
You dig a hole there, you might actually come out here. It's that far. I'm in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan is a small country, which is one of the 12 countries where snow leopards are found. And I live in the capital city, which actually overlooks the mountains which have snow leopards.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful part. I was thinking when I was, and we're going to get into it, but by the way, I should warn you, I'm going to bounce all over the place. So if I don't have a direction, it's because I just don't have a direction. So just go with it. So when I was looking where the snow leopards are, and I'm going to get into you first, but I wanted to ask you a question because I just thought about it. But are all the stands, the world that's got all the stands, is that where are all the snow leopards in all the stands? Because there's Pakistan, Afghanistan, and all the, Kazakhstan, whatever other stand.
There are a few where you don't have them, like Turkmenistan, for instance, does not have snow leopards. But yes, so if I can list the names, we start from southeast. We'll start with Bhutan, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Mongolia, and China, which has the most snow leopards in the world.
I can definitely pronounce the last three ones for sure.
I'm sure you can.
Anyways, those are the easy ones for me. But you know what I want to do before we get into all this other stuff, let's talk about you. I mean, I know you've been almost 2 decades now doing this, but let's talk about your background, how you got started. Let's start whatever age you want to start and kind of go with your journey. And I know you've been there doing this for the last 20 years roughly, but Let's talk about how you got there and how you got into snow leopards and everything else.
I'll actually blame it on very happy and very pleasant encounters right from when I was probably 13. The first one was when a group of forest officers from the Indian Forest Service visited our school, generally meeting school kids, talking to them about wildlife and ecosystem, and creating a small group which they called Environment Care Group, or ECG in short. And the idea was that this interaction would grow, but ultimately culminate into a nature camp in the remote forests of central India. And any opportunity to get out of home, I think I would always be game for it. Get out of the city, go out with friends. Mm-hmm. But this was a transformative trip. I went to a forest called the Bori Reserve in Satpura Tiger Reserve in central India. And those 3 days were so transformative because I realized that you can even do this for a living. You can be in the wilderness, you can study the wilderness, you can conserve the wilderness, and that can be a vocation. I think that was a big learning for me. I saw these forest officers doing their work. I saw some researchers from the Wildlife Institute of India doing some research there. And I thought maybe I can possibly look at these opportunities. I'll cut to 2001, which is when I was just finishing my master's in physics. I had taken physics because I used to find it very intuitive, right? I've always found physics intuitive. Right. It's about how things work and, understanding them. So I was doing a master's in physics, but at the same time, I was also doing bird counts in the city of Bhopal. And one little study I did was to be vetted by the Bombay Natural History Society. It's one of probably Asia's oldest conservation organizations still working. And the then director of the Bombay Natural History Society, a gentleman with the name Dr. Asad Rahmani, he saw the report. He had 100 concerns and questions and comments on it, which I tried to fix. I fixed them. But once this project was over, he asked me, would you be interested in doing some research going further? I said, absolutely, yes. There's no way I'm ever going to say no to it. He said, no, there's a catch to it. The project that I'm talking about, people are not willing to join that project because it's about a species that has never been studied before. So there's a lot of concerns and worries about it. I said, yeah. I mean, why not take up the challenge? So then I joined the BNHS, which is Bombay Natural History Society in short, to study a species called the four-horned antelope. Now, the four-horned antelope is a small antelope, just about maybe 2 feet high, and it is 20 kilograms in weight. And it has never been studied before, but it's also unique in being the only wild species in the world which has 2 distinct pair of horns. And anyway, so the next 4 to 5 years I spent in Panna Tiger Reserve studying this species, but also assisting other works that were going on, including a study on tigers in central India, specifically the tropical deciduous forest. Tigers using the tropical deciduous forests. And that's how I gained my understanding of carnivores, interaction between species, ecosystems, and so on. The fact that I came from physics, Mark, it helped me be a little more comfortable with numbers. Mm-hmm. And when you're talking about studying species, well, it's all the species, but especially those species which are not very easy to see or easy to observe, you need to rely on statistics, models, sure, and tools that can fill the gaps between what you are observing and what you're not observing. And that little skill allowed me to be able to work with multiple other projects as well. But most importantly, around the time I was finishing my PhD, the Snow Leopard Trust was looking for someone with a similar skill set, but also an interest to spend extensive periods in remote areas. And that's when the journey started. So I joined the Snow Leopard Trust in 2007, 2008 as a field biologist, and I've been with them ever since now.
So I want to talk about, because as I was doing my homework, studying these amazing animals, is when you're a field biologist, let's talk about where they are, because they're pretty remote. So when you're being a field biologist, give me an example of what a day would be, or a week, or how does it work?
The best part about being a field biologist is that no 2 work days or no 2 days at office are going to be the same. Every day is going to be a different day.
Right.
Yes, you might repeat similar things that you had done the day before or the month before or the year before, because that's what builds consistent data sets. But what you observe, what you get will be so different every day. So typically, our work comprises of conducting field work, and field work could really vary among multiple things. In case of snow leopards, you might be going out doing a little survey in a certain area, looking for signs and tracks of snow leopards and identifying spots where there is a good likelihood of photographing one if you set up a camera at that spot. That could be one of the field works. Another field trip could include you tracking signs and evidences and other features in the mountains, and collecting snow leopard poop, because you might want to collect that poop and identify what all it has eaten. Mm-hmm. In fact, some new technologies also allow us to identify individuals based on the snow leopard poop. So which individual snow leopard?
DNA for that? Is that how they do that? Is they use DNA?
That's right. So we have recently developed the snow leopard genome, which allows us to use genomic tools to be able to estimate individual snow leopards with a fairly reliable accuracy. So sometimes you might do that. Another day you might go out and do an interview of people who use this landscape, because they are using that landscape for several years, and their knowledge about the local area, their knowledge about the region could be extremely valuable. So we might want to use the local ecological knowledge and analyze it using some sophisticated frameworks so that you can understand the species distributions as well. So it really is a mixed bag of different kinds of things that you do when you're out in the field. But yes, that's how exciting and diverse fieldwork can get.
But in the field for snow leopards, unless you're talking to the herders or something like that, it's real high altitude, right? I mean, it's way up there, and remote, and rocks and hills and cliffs and all that kind of stuff.
Remote, yes, but altitude, you'll be fascinated to hear that the altitudes at which snow leopards are found varies from maybe as high as 700 or 1,000 meters above the mean sea level in parts of Russia and Mongolia to, of course, 5,500, 5,600 meters above mean sea level in lower latitudes of India and Bhutan and Nepal. So the altitudinal range really varies. But yes, mostly these species are above what we call as the tree line. So there are very few trees in that altitude.
So they're above the tree line.
Typically above the tree line.
Yeah.
And yes, remote, of course they are, because these are not these landscapes have, since they don't have trees, the overall biomass will be very low. So they're very difficult landscapes for many of us, if you may say so.
Okay, so let's. And we'll be right back. This one's for all you cat owners out there. Now, most of my life, my family's had cats at one time or another. Now, for me, the only negative thing about cats, well, it was that stinky litter box. But guess what? BoxyCat has solved that problem. Now, just think. No more stinky litter boxes. But let's talk about that. BoxyPro, pro as in probiotics, Boxy's probiotics actually stop the bacteria that causes odors, and that means infinite days of having an odor-free litter box. You still got a scoop, but again, none of those stinky odors. Now, my son and his family, they use Boxy for their cat Donut, and let me tell you, nobody's holding their nose in their house. So if you want to stop holding your noses, get Boxy at BOXIECAT.com, and you can get a 30% discount if you use the code BoxyCat.com/for-real. That's BOXIECAT.com/for-real. And let's get some fresh air back in your house.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at PrepVet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
Let's talk about, for everybody that's listening, because first of all, if you've seen a snow leopard, it's probably been on social media or it's been in a zoo, more than likely, right? So, because in the wild, I mean, I'm sure the people that live in the area occasionally may see them, but they're not many people have really seen them in the wild. So let's tell everybody a little bit about them, how big they are, just give them some characteristics so we can kind of paint a picture for everybody.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. You mentioned that people who live in these areas may see them, and I'll concur with that. Even some people who've lived in an area for 40 years may not have ever seen it.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's exactly the reason why in some places it's called either the spirit of the mountain or the ghost of the mountain, because you see its footprints, you see the animals that it kills, you hear its call during their mating season, but you never see it. So it's there, but it's not there. And that's one of the reasons why you either call it the ghost of the mountain or the spirit of the mountain. Now, coming back to what it looks like, it's a big cat. And by big cat, we mean all the species which come under the genus Panthera. So you have the tiger, which is the biggest of the big cats. And then, of course, you have jaguars and lions and common leopards and so on. Snow leopard is the smallest of the big cats. It weighs around anywhere between 35 to 45 kilograms in average.
For you guys in America, that's about 100 pounds around, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. The world is divided into two on that.
I know. I wish we could standardize everything, because I got to do, I've got to do that 2.2 pound thing all the time for me. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, stay there. We're good.
They're about a meter long, which would be roughly 3 feet, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Right. And the tail is roughly the same length.
Well, I know that's the crazy thing reading about them.
That's the most fascinating part. So you have 1 meter of a snow leopard and 1 meter of a tail that just trails behind it.
Yeah.
And it's a big furry tail. So it looks almost like a python following a cat, if you ever see it moving in those mountains. Apart from that, they're very well, they're evolved almost to perfection to thrive in these mountains. They are they are the only big cat which is found only in the mountains and nowhere else. So they're truly made for the mountains, if I may use that metaphor. They have large nasal cavities. Their front paws are pretty big and wide, which seemingly allows them to move fairly comfortably on snow, plus also get a better grip in those treacherous, steep rocks. the tail, apart from, of course, sometimes serving as a nose warmer when they're curled up, it also plays a very important role in balancing when they're chasing down prey on these steep slopes. So it really works as a brilliant counterweight and a balancing tool for them. Yep. And lastly, they're off-white in color with rosette patterns on them. And the fur is fairly thick, which is certainly needed for the kind of cold temperatures that they survive in.
You know, a couple of things I read too was that the ears are smaller to keep them warmer because they're not so big. And the nose, the reason why the nose is so big is, one, the cavity is to warm the air up, and two is because the altitude, to get more oxygen for the altitude. So they've been designed to be a mountain animal, which is really, really cool.
It is fascinating. I mean, I sometimes even jokingly say that they are custom designed by evolution to live in that habitat. And it's almost it's just fascinating how well suited they are towards this particular habitat.
And the other thing is, now tell me about this. Is this is true or not? I don't trust the internet very much, so because you never know where you're going to read there. But they said that what I read is that the snow leopard is closer to the tiger than other leopard species. Is that true?
That's absolutely true, Mark. In fact, genetic studies done recently in the last 10, 15 years has confirmed that snow leopards are closer to the tiger than they are to any other of the big cats, which is quite fascinating. So you have the biggest and the smallest of the big cat who are the closest relatives of each other.
Yeah. So basically they should really be called snow tigers. But anyways, and they also don't roar. That's the thing I thought was fascinating too. They chuff.
Yes.
And they purr and they meow too. They meow like a regular cat, which is crazy.
They do. In fact, they lack in simple words, they lack the folds in their vocal cords, which allow a species to roar, right? A big cat to roar.
Right.
They lack that. And that prevents them from being able to roar. But they do have a nice little widget box of calls, if I may use the metaphor there. They, as you rightly said, they chuff, they purr, they yowl. And that's typically what most people hear, because the chuffs are only at close distance, but the yowls are heard fairly far, and that's typically what most people hear during the mating season.
So are they? One of the things when I was trying to kind of figure these guys out, are they solitary? Are they just hang out by themselves? Talk to me about the mating thing. They mate, I know that obviously, but then they just go off and leave the mom to raise the cubs and all that?
Yeah. Had you asked this question to me about 10 years ago, I would have just drawn a blank. But now, thanks to the research that our team is doing, we have some better answers on these. So to begin with, yes, they are a solitary animal. And they're so solitary that even literature, which has a word for a group of tigers or a group of leopards or a group of lions, of course, there's no word for a group of snow leopards. So, we once threw out a question to people and some suggestions came saying that, maybe a banana of snow leopards or maybe a cloud of snow leopards or whatever, because there's no word for a group of snow leopards. That's how solitary they have been known to be.
Wow, that's interesting.
Having said that, our research, the team that our research conducts, especially that research which is using satellite collars, has revealed that these cats come together more often than we had thought. They do come together to share meals sometimes. They do come together, of course, when it's mating season. And there is a possibility that females who could either be mother-daughter weaned away might sometimes come together and be less hostile to each other as well. Because there was one instance where I remember we had 5 snow leopards in a camera trap.
Wow.
And they were just, it was like a train of snow leopards just, walking in front of the camera. And we're like, what's even going on? And we remember
you guys
Yeah, and we remember that one of those snow leopards had two cubs earlier, who we had seen with two cubs, and then there were these two new individuals. So could be that these two individuals were her previous litter, but it's all speculation. We don't really know until you are able to either do some genetic tests on them or you're able to follow them before and after.
Right.
But yes, so they do seem to come together. Now, you mentioned the mating season, Mark. The snow leopard mating season sort of coincides with the Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So this is roughly the time when you will have snow leopards coming together. This is roughly also the time when the teenager cubs or the subadult cubs will be, almost pushed away. Yes, cubs are born about 3 months from now, roughly 101 days from now, which also coincides with a very productive season of spring and summer in most places where they live. So there's a lot of grass, fresh grass, and also some fat prey, including in some areas, some species like the marmots, which are hibernating. They wake up and they provide for additional fat and protein capsules to the snow leopards.
And the range that they travel big distances, right? They cover big areas.
Yeah. One of the first snow leopards that we ever collared with a satellite tag was in Pakistan. And that was even before I joined the Snow Leopard Trust. And this snow leopard would be seen right in front of a very busy road for an extended period of up to 2 or 3 months. I remember even BBC made a film on that snow leopard. And then eventually, as part of the scientific program there, the snow leopard was collared. A lot of people did not like the whole idea of collaring a snow leopard, which you could anyway observe, just because it was there.
Right.
Well, as luck would have it, the collar did not really work very well, which means it stopped communicating data back to us. So we were in complete blank for the next several months or almost a year. But then what the collar was continuing to do was it was recording data. So it had a GPS and a memory on board, and it kept recording.
You weren't getting the memory. It was saving its data, but you guys weren't getting it. That's cool.
We were not getting it.
Yeah.
And after 1 year, the collar had a mechanism which would make it drop. But then this snow leopard dropped it in a very steep slope, a crevice on a very steep slope. So it took several months for our team in Pakistan to try and locate, because the radio signals were bouncing in that valley, right? But they created, very ingeniously created an FM radio and converted it into a transmitter and somehow managed to find it. When that data was extracted, Mark, you'll be surprised to hear that this one snow leopard was using an area which is 5 times the size of Seattle City.
Wow.
She was using an area which extended a country.
Wow.
So she was not only using Pakistan, she was traveling all the way to Afghanistan. And 1,400 square kilometers approximately is the area that she was using. Now that completely changes your perspectives.
Yeah.
Right?
You didn't even have a passport.
Exactly. So, you can't save the species by just working in a small community. You can't save the species by even working in a single country.
Right.
Because for them, these borders don't matter. They travel between borders as if they don't, of course, because they don't need any visas or passports, right? They'll just cross the border. They won't worry about those.
Right.
And then, of course, the follow-up research that has continued in South Gobi in Mongolia, where till date we have collared almost a little less than 50 snow leopards. Now that has revealed that these snow leopards have fairly big ranges, and they vary in size depending on the age, sex, class of the individual. So females have different range sizes depending on what state they are in. With cubs, they will use a very small area. With slightly grown-up cubs, they'll be using a much bigger area. When they are in between, the period in between, they'll be using around 50 to 100 square kilometer area. Whereas males, on the other hand, will use anywhere between 200 to maybe 500 square kilometers and so on. So they definitely have much bigger home ranges than what we would have imagined maybe 20 years earlier. And that's just spectacular. It makes the species a true ambassador of transboundary cooperation and conservation, because
Right. Right.
a third of the world's snow leopard population is within 100 kilometers of international borders.
Wow.
So that means that a substantial chunk of these populations, they don't care about borders. They travel between them.
Right.
Of course, as long as they're not fenced and completely barricaded, they travel between these countries, and they don't care about passports and visas.
Now, are they aggressive with each other if you're in their territory? Do they get really? I mean, this is my territory. I'm sure. What I read is I know that sometimes you can see that they've gone in some of the other territories, but I'm assuming they're on the other side of the territory or something. Or are they aggressive with each other? How does that work?
Yeah. So I think fighting is expensive, whichever species you are, whether you're
Right.
an animal or a human, right? Fights are always expensive. They have a huge cost associated to them. So typically, all species avoid fighting, which is why they would mark their territories and leave signals. And these signals are left on what we jokingly call as the scrapebook sites. So snow leopards typically would go to certain characteristic sites, and they'll create a little scrape like your domestic cat would sometimes, right, with the hind legs.
Right.
And they'll leave a bit of urine mark. In some of the overhanging rocks, they'll rub their cheek as well. And these signals must carry a lot of messages, like this is my area, or stay out of it. Or maybe a female would be saying, okay, I'm looking for a boyfriend, who's out there, right? So all these messages could be communicated through these scrapebook sites. But coming back to it, it does not take away the occasional encounter, because if there is an individual who has access to good resources, whether it's access to females or prey base, then another snow leopard who thinks it's strong enough would like to take over. And when they come together, there are some very interesting observation records recently collected by photographer friends and even tourists who provide a fascinating description of how viciously snow leopards can fight. They can really cause massive injuries to each other, bloodied nose, injured paws, even damaged eyes. But that kind of fights do happen, and they are recorded in certain cases. But many times, young snow leopards or snow leopards of a certain age also suddenly die, and when we track them, you realize an individual has died. And when you do an investigation, a few times we have found that they have been hurt by most likely another snow leopard, which did not want them in their territory, so they just got rid of them.
Right.
Or they had a fight and then one of them probably lost.
Well, another thing I thought was interesting that I read too is they're not really dangerous to humans. There's been 2 deaths recorded total, or is that even that a real number?
Yeah, those 2 deaths also. I'll just put it as a very special case where you end up cornering an individual. Yeah, it was literally cornered in a small space. Honestly speaking, if I corner a big mouse, even I'll be scared of that big mouse because it can really hurt me very bad.
Of course.
And here we're talking about a big predator which has the ability to pull down prey many times its body weight.
Right.
So that predator can cause damage. But yes, apart from that, my personal encounter, my most favorite encounter, which was literally coming face to face with a wild snow leopard.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we just found each other in front of each other on the top of a ledge, and I can never forget the kind of expressions I could imagine it must be thinking that, how did you get so close to me? I should have known and run away. But truly speaking, it looked at me with big round eyes, had a very heavily scarred face, not fresh scars, old scars. Looked at me, big round eyes, turns around and just walks away as if, oh, I don't want
Yeah, see
to.
ya.
I don't want to be, close to you.
Yeah.
I don't like you. So that's really how avidly, if I may use the word, they tend to avoid humans. And in most occasions, if you observe their behavior, they would like to get into their comfort zone, which is these steep mountains, as soon as possible or out of sight. There have been times, a snow leopard sitting there, somehow it realizes that we might be able to see it. It just walks up the ridge and goes the other side and still sits there. Just doesn't want to be seen, doesn't want to be.
Crazy.
Yeah.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. A quick message from today's sponsor, ASPCA Pet Insurance Program. These days, our pets are really just part of our family. Now, my dog Mabel, she's just like one of my kids. And like my kids, I would do anything to keep her healthy. Pet insurance, like our health insurance, is a must. That's why you should check out ASPCA Pet Insurance, because vet bills, they can really add up. So why not get some help from those unexpected vet costs to make sure your dog, our cat, gets the care they truly need? And when you enroll with ASPCA Pet Insurance Plan, you can get a $25 gift card. Now, that's just a little treat for when you're doing something for your pet. By the way, you can also tailor your plan to fit your budget for yours and your pet's lifestyle. Now, to explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/forreal. And let's make sure our pets live their best life. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit aspcapetinsurance.com/Amazon terms for more information. This is a paid advertisement insurance underwritten by either Independence Insurance Company or United's Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and it's not engaged in the business of insurance.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at prepvet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
Let's talk about Snow Leopard Trust and everything you guys are doing, because I know that they're threatened, and threatened means less than 10,000, I think is the number, or something like that. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of different interviews with people from IUCN, and I guess it's called a red tag or whatever they call it. And so you guys are an organization with conservations and really trying to figure out how to let humans and the animals coexist in a positive way. And I'm going to pass it on to you. That's about as elaborate as I can go, probably. But let's just go with that.
Thank you, Mark. And you've put it very clearly, very succinctly there.
Thank you. I'll make you say it better.
Yes, you're right. There are fewer snow leopards than how many we would like them to be to begin with.
Okay.
They're primarily threatened by a series of threats or a series of factors which are almost entirely human-driven. One of the main threats snow leopards face is that of herders who lose their livestock. Out of anger and frustration, they retaliate and they may hurt the snow leopards. The other threats include illegal wildlife trade, because some people consider their felt or their skin to be very fancy looking and exotic to wear or gift to influential people. Snow leopards are also threatened of late with much greater intensity by poorly planned developmental projects, which may include mines being put in places where they could have been avoided, or roads being planned and executed in such a way that they completely cut off their habitats. So that broadly speaking, these are the few threats these species face. And when it comes to conserving them, there are four things we try to do, Mark, and that broadly summarizes how the Snow Leopard Trust works on the ground towards conserving snow leopards. We do research because we need to know what snow leopards need. We need to know what threats they're facing. And we also need to know what people need or what their pain points are, because otherwise, you can't save a species at the cost of people, right? So people,
Right.
So that's a very important part there. And it's not only ethically and morally imperative that we work with people, but it is also the necessity in case of a snow leopard. I mentioned those large home ranges, and you'll be fascinated to hear that probably less than 5% of the protected areas across the snow leopard range are big enough to contain a viable snow leopard population. So, which means most of the snow leopards are outside protected areas, right?
Right.
And that mandates, in addition to, of course, the right thing to do, which is that of working with people. So we do that research. There's a lot of time and resources that go into understanding snow leopards, their populations, their distributions, the threats, their behavior, and their ecology in general. And that's the research part. The second part we do is engaging with communities ethically and respectfully and responsibly to facilitate conservation programs. Now, conservation programs, they're not something that you can just copy paste that, this program is working great here, let's do exactly the same thing elsewhere.
Right.
Because the socioeconomics differ, the cultural backdrops differ, the religions differ. So there are so many factors that play into it that it really has to be to each site its own, right? So our teams work closely with the communities, build partnerships with local communities to come up with, to co-evolve solutions which are then implemented. A solution for example, could be that, we need to predator-proof corrals where herders keep their livestock so that a predator, irrespective of whether it's a snow leopard or a wolf, does not get inside and damage their livestock. That alone prevents a lot of pain and trauma and monetary loss to a herder, which in turn helps the snow leopards as well. So that's one example. There are many other such initiatives. The third part is that of awareness building and education. Now, it's almost like out of sight, out of mind, and that's been the bane of the snow leopard, that for years, people knew about it, but nobody would see it, so nobody would plan for it, nobody would talk about it, and we didn't know what's going on there. So we invest a lot of our time and resources in talking to children through nature camps, through educational programs, through nature clubs, making them experience the wilderness, if possible, but also engaging with them in a consistent way over several years, so that whatever they do in the future, they have the ecosystems, the snow leopards in the back of their mind, and that alone goes a long way. Apart from that, of course, we spend a lot of time and effort in engaging with people, and this interaction, for instance, Mark, is part of that part where we're very happy that you're going to help build awareness about the species, because snow leopards can't vote; they don't have a voice, and if a politician has to be requested to not do something, a snow leopard can't do it. It's only the people who will be able to do it.
Right.
And unless they know the plight of the snow leopard, they won't be concerned about it. So that part becomes extremely important, that of awareness building and education. And the last part is that we engage very closely with the governments, whether it is a local government, whether it is a provincial government, national government, or governments of multiple countries where the snow leopards are distributed. I think the importance of that cannot be overemphasized, because of multiple factors, including one that you might protect a snow leopard in one country, but the neighboring country it could still get persecuted. That being one. But also, you might be doing great conservation work with the community, but the government might have a plan to transform that area into a power generation plant. And that could completely dismantle decades of your conservation work that even the communities are engaged with. So to be able to engage with the governments constructively, proactively, it's very important that we work closely with them. Because the other side of it is that as an organization, there's only that much that we can do. I mean, even the biggest organizations in the world, biggest NGOs or non-government organizations in the world, are smaller than the size of a district's administration in any of the snow leopard range countries. So you can imagine the scales at which governments work and at which non-government entities can work. So if anything has to be scaled, it has to be in partnership, in collaboration with the government. And that's the fourth pillar, if I may say so. So we have research, community-based conservation, education and awareness, and policy engagement. These are the four main pillars with which we try to conserve snow leopards.
So I'm going to paint a picture for everybody who's listening, because I did a deep dive into this thing. So for everybody that's listening, generally the areas where these are, the people that work there are herders or things like that, farmers. So they're low income, and their livelihood is based on, and their existence is based on generally the herds. So what's happening for a variety of reasons, the prey of the snow leopards, if it's not, there's not much there, they end up migrating down to these herds, and they end up getting a sheep or whatever they have there. And then what happens is that these herders end up retaliating by killing or damaging the mountain lion. And what you guys are doing are creating education for the herders. You're doing a variety of different things. One is the corrals that you mentioned earlier. One of the things I wanted to talk to you a little bit about too is, because they want their herds to be profitable or whatever, one of the things they get is disease. And you guys are doing a vaccination program that is helping them to make these animals live longer. You're doing a lot of really cool things. And the other thing, what I thought was fascinating, is an insurance program, which is really interesting in a remote area and places of the world. And I'm curious about that, and I want to get into that. And I also want to talk about the snow leopard handicraft thing that you guys do too. You teach them how to make income from other different things as well. I think I may not have read that correctly, but I'm curious about all those things, because what you're doing is you're looking at the big picture and the small picture to do things, and also trying to bring back the prey for the mountain lions to have food, so they're not coming in and that too. So I know I talked about 100 different things, but let's talk a little bit, because you guys are doing some really cool community outreach and support, which is really, really important.
Thank you, Kyle.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. You did a brilliant summary out there. Thank you so much for doing that.
Well, I just think it's interesting. And so talk to me when, I'm interested on a couple of things. Well, I'm interested in all of it, but the vaccination thing. So you bring it, what are you guys supplying it? Tell me how that works and what are you doing?
Yeah. So as you rightly said, people lose their livestock to disease that is preventable. And that reduces their tolerance to that one instance that might happen once in a year or once in a couple of years, when a predator comes and kills their livestock, and they might end up retaliating. So it puts them under undue pressure. So what our team does in that case is it provides support in terms of vaccines. So our teams actually go and hold vaccination camps where these livestock are vaccinated against a suite of potential disease risks. And it reduces the overall mortality of livestock, which means it improves the tolerance of the people towards the predators who are there. And they would be okay with, with that coexistence, as long as their livestock was flourishing. So that's essentially how we do. The vaccination program is, again, it has to be repeated because you can't just do it once and forget about it. So there's a very systematic protocol under which these livestock are vaccinated, and the boosters are provided to them, and it's done by a local we call them the vaccine volunteers or something. So these are the people who help with the whole program under the supervision of veterinarians, trained veterinarians.
Reminds me of spay and neuter programs. Similar. I mean, it's a different thing because spay and neuter, because oftentimes you get people that volunteer and they're doing that thing and they've got to do it regularly. It's different, but it's the same idea at some level, right? You're trying to do that. Now, talk about the insurance. How does that work? I mean, do they have the money for it? I mean, how does it work?
Yeah. So let me come to the spay and neuter part that's primarily with the dogs, because that's a big threat of late. It's a new threat to snow leopards where in many parts of the range, dogs are killing more livestock, forget about wild prey, than snow leopards and wolves put together.
Oh, really?
Not to mention dogs becoming a bigger menace in terms of disease and other challenges.
Sure.
So the idea is to control their populations, and that's why in many parts we're conducting these spaying and neutering camps repeatedly, because you really have to spay and neuter almost 100%, if not 100%,
right,
the animals for it to become successful.
Right.
So that's basically another program which is trying to reduce one of those key threats the species face.
Interrupt real quickly. So I read an article that Bhutan is 100% spay and neuter. They're the only country in the world right now that's done that. I don't know how you measure that, but they have the best spay and neuter program in the world right now, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, Bhutan is a small country, but they have so much to teach the world.
Yeah.
Whether it is
right.
creating protected areas or corridors between them, or really developing and implementing policies at scale. So yes, some of their initiatives are absolutely mind-boggling at the scale at which they managed to achieve them.
So it's doable.
It's doable. That's what they just show that it's doable. You can't hide behind the fact, it's too much. I mean, you can do things.
Right.
Now, coming back to the insurance program, Mark. So, in simple terms, if I am a herder, I have, let's say, 30 yaks, right?
Right.
And 10 of them are really high value to me because of whether they are the breeding characteristics, or because they're milking, or they have other features.
Right.
If they're lost, I lose substantial. I feel a major monetary loss. So I can basically say that, okay, these 10 livestock I would like to insure, and there is a premium which is calculated using standardized, insurance program mathematics. Many times what happens is a herder may not have the monetary capacity to be able to pay the full premium which is required for the insurance program to sustain. That's the case when we, as an NGO, we go to our donor partners and take their help to top up the insurance kitty.
Right.
Now, essentially, an insurance is distributing the losses, right? That's what it is, right? In the larger scheme of things, an insurance program is distributing the losses so that individually we don't feel that pain. We collectively, tackle it. Now, in this case, what happens is once people have their livestock insured, if they also commit to making sure that they're herded, not that, now my animal is insured, I don't care about it, let it go anywhere and herd by itself, and that because anything happens, it will be taken care of. But there are some better herding practices which are put in place. There are also incentives about those herders who are losing the least amount of livestock, they're getting cash incentives and so on. So you basically buttress the whole program with a few add-ons which make it attractive and make it sustainable. And the idea is that every year, of course, the insurance premium has to be paid, which is contingent to their ability, their monetary ability. But the reason why this program is successful is, one, it is owned and managed locally by the village through a locally elected committee. It's not an international or a national or a corporate insurance company coming and doing it. It's run and managed.
Community insurance.
So it's community-based insurance program.
Oh.
What it does is it takes away any concerns of malpractice or corruption because it's their
Fraud. Yeah, exactly.
They own it, right? So there's a greater ownership.
Yeah.
Two, it also, it also allows them to put that effort towards taking better measures so that they don't have to, they don't lose their livestock. So all those things really help there.
Right.
And in some places where these insurance programs are being put in place, they're running for the last 20, 30 years with great success. So effectively, what also happens in many places is because of better practices, you start losing fewer livestock.
Right, exactly.
Which means you start saving on the money that you're collecting as premium.
Right. A vested interest.
Exactly. That money then becomes available for some community interventions.
Right.
You need to fix a road. Let's use that saving and fix the road, right? Which otherwise would take forever for someone else to come and fix it. Or we need a little a hand pump. We can use that resource to create a hand pump. So that's essentially how that program works.
Wow, I love that idea.
And as long as the communities can take ownership, they manage it, it goes a long way.
And there are small communities, so the people that are taking advantage of it, and then the ones that aren't, and everybody's going, hey, you better take care of your yaks, or you're going to be yaks yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. So it really has inherent checks and balances built into it, which make it quite successul.
So I did an interview with a guy that on Bangkar dogs. And so they're with the herders and that because they'd gone away and they reintroduced them to protect the herds. And I have to believe that that's probably keeping because if I remember correctly, it's wolves, coyote. I don't know if they have coyotes, wolves, and some snow leopards that were coming down and getting them. And now that the dogs are there, they're not coming down anymore because the dogs are protecting them. And so that's probably keeping them away from that and probably making the snow leopards live longer as well.
You're right. But again, this brings the point of cultural, religious, regional nuances as well. Now, dogs work great in certain communities who are able to keep the dog with them.
Right.
In other places, they may not work because these dogs travel long distances to breed, and then they might breed into a feral population, and that could be a problem.
Sure.
Two, these dogs need to be really taken care of. They need to be really, taken care of. And in many communities, in many regions, the dogs are kept outside. They're never brought in. Right. So then it becomes a bit of a challenge, and sustaining that for a long term becomes a bit of a challenge. So again, great program, but before we copy and paste it somewhere, we need to understand the cultural, socioeconomic, societal, as well as economic factors, the situations, and then we can explore. So yes, absolutely.
So I know we're going to run out of time here in a second. What have we not covered? And also, I'm assuming you guys are, you're based on donors and things like that. So tell us what we haven't covered. And then for people that are interested, how can they help as well?
I always say that whether it's $1 or $100 or $100,000, every contribution goes a long way. Most important point to remember here is that all that money goes into conservation, where none of it goes into the pocket of the snow leopard, because snow leopards don't need money to be able to breed better or eat better. They don't shop. They just go out and hunt. But the point I'm trying to make here is that irrespective of whatever resources you would like to contribute, they all go a long way. And the Snow Leopard Trust is primarily a donor-driven organization. So a large part of our resource mobilization is by individual donors who love the snow leopard or like the work that we do. But in addition to that, we also write project grants constantly. We are collaborating with several foundations, using grant money to facilitate some work on the ground, so that's broadly how resource mobilization happens. And if you like the work, please do not forget to contribute to the Snow Leopard Trust.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to where you guys are found. But you know what I like about what I think what's interesting about you guys, and I'm sure there's other organizations that I'm not aware of doing other things, is that anybody donating money to you guys is also helping communities. It's not necessarily by helping the communities, you're helping the snow leopards. So you're actually, it's a bigger, that dollar's doing more than just save the snow leopards. It's probably helping people, saving a local community for their livelihood or whatever else too, the health of themselves.
You said it so much better than I could, Mark. Yes,
Really?
That's exactly.
You really make me sound good. I know better than that.
No, that's exactly what's really valuable, adds value to this conservation work. That it all goes to people. It all goes to people who share their spaces, who tolerate.
Right. So people protect the animals.
Yeah, who share the spaces.
Yeah, I love it.
With snow leopards, and of course, when those people are supported, the snow leopards get supported.
Right. It's a cause and effect. So, how does everybody find you? Your website, social media. If they've got questions, how do they do that? Where they put their money, all that kind of stuff. Let's make sure we cover it all.
You can find all the details about our.
By the way, one sec.
Yes.
For everybody that's listening, as I always say this, all this information will also be in the description. We're recording now, but when it comes out, it'll actually be in the description. You're listening now; it's in the description of the episode.
You can find us on our website, which is a very easy domain. It's www.snowleopard.org. That's where you can find everything about what the Snow Leopard Trust.
Snow Leopard or Snow Leopard Trust?
It's just snowleopard.org.
Okay.
So that's easy. You can find us on all major social media channels, which includes Instagram as Snow Leopard Trust, Facebook as Snow Leopard Trust, X, and LinkedIn as well.
Are you on TikTok?
No, not yet. We're not on TikTok.
Well, you know what? Where you guys are, though, you may not be able to because of being through China. You may not be beyond there.
Yeah, that's true. But in addition to that, we bring out a newsletter, periodic newsletter, that shares quite a lot of interesting information about snow leopards periodically. So feel free to write to us, and we will be happy to add you to the newsletter list. And that way you can get additional details. But as far as donations are concerned, everything you can find about that on the website, which is just snowleopard.org.
Snowleopard.org. Okay, so we're at that point when I think I told you when we talked last time that I have a silly animal joke that I tell all the time.
Yes, I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, you can. Trust me. But anyway.
Because then I've got one of mine too.
No, trust me, you're going to hate this more than everybody already is cringing that listens out there. But everybody that's listening out there is always say, I don't mind telling the jokes. The guests don't mind occasionally. But more importantly, we'd rather have you guys tell the jokes. And so if you've got grandkids, nieces, nephews, you want to be on the show, I promise you, anybody that you think that would really love to tell a silly dad animal joke, I'll always do it. And if you email me at mkyle@freeopodcast.com, I will definitely have you on, and it'll be everybody's pleasure not to have to hear me say a really silly joke. So here's one of the worst jokes you've ever heard. So I'm going to tell you now. So I forgot it already. It's so bad. Why don't snow leopards ever get lost?
Okay.
It's trust me, it's not that deep.
I know. I'm just thinking something to do with the tail, maybe. No.
You know what? By the way, I'm going to tell you the ending. I'm going to tell you something about last thing on that tail. It's because they can always follow their tracks.
There you go. Very cool.
And what's their favorite stories that they like? Favorite books they like to read and favorite stories?
I think the book Snow Leopard by Peter Mattison is.
It's better than this.
Oh.
Anything that has a cliffhanger.
Good one. Let me say, give you one of mine as well. What do you call a snow leopard that's a great storyteller?
What do you call one? I don't know.
A tail spinner.
Oh, that's way. Why you should have said that in the first part. Everybody got stuck with that. Okay. Anyways, I just want to thank you for being on the show. Thanks so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. You're 11 hours ahead of me, so we're really doing you're a different day than me, actually, which is crazy right now. So, but really, thanks so much for being on. I think you guys are doing great things, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for having us over, and thank you for spreading the word about the snow leopard, and particularly about that cool joke at the end. Love that.
Telling a great joke. And then for everybody else that's listening, as I've always say, without you guys, we couldn't get great guests. And by the way, if you have an idea for an episode that you think was good, again, that email at mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. Please do that. But more importantly, pass the word out, get the stories out like this. When I have organizations like this, without you guys, these organizations can't exist. So anything you guys can do to help, I always really appreciate it. But most importantly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.